Steve Adubato here, talking about the future of urban education. We're based here at the North Ward Center, a community-based organization here in the city. We just finished an extraordinary forum, a very candid forum that the gentleman you're about to see on camera, you've seen him before with us. He is Chris Cerf, the superintendent of the Newark Public Schools, the former head of the State Department of Education, the commissioner. A very candid conversation about not just Newark schools, not just urban schools in New Jersey, but across the country. What was your biggest takeaway?
Well, my biggest takeaway is that we owe a debt to our children, and to pay that debt fully, we have to accept certain basic truths. And one of those truths is that in urban America, we have not succeeded as a country to provide the central goal of public education, which is to give every child, regardless of the circumstances into which she or he is born, an equal opportunity at a full and successful life.
You know, Chris, you and I have had so many conversations about education, both on camera and as neighbors in town as well, in Montclair. We've talked about this, and so I want to put this question to you here, which we talked about there, which is a larger question of who cares? Meaning, I asked the question about suburban parents, and I don't mean they're a monolithic entity, but the amount of state funding that goes to poorer districts is somewhat predicated on the political will of suburban legislators representing suburban taxpayers, parents, voters. Long-winded question, I know. To what degree do you believe others outside the city care about urban education and those kids?
I think the answer is it very much depends. I think that there is a narrative out there that says that we do not owe an obligation equally to all children. We need to keep our local taxes local to support our own schools. And why should
our taxes are already through the roof?
Our taxes are already through the roof. But I have to tell you that I think when people sit down and really understand the question, they come out very differently.
Because?
They come out very differently because it's very difficult to defend a system where the quality of one school depends on the value of the taxable property alone.
Explain that to folks.
Well, here's what I mean. I mean, in the olden days, local property taxes essentially paid the lion's share of the cost of public education.
So you got a lot of real estate in that town that's worth a lot. What does it say about the school district?
They got more money to spend, and it all goes there, and none of it goes to a district that has less. On the other hand, years ago, this country woke up to the idea that it can't be right that a child should go to a dilapidated, rundown school, have a larger class size, have no books, no computers, just because he or she happened to be born in a community with lower taxes. Now, the question that is fairly
asked... I mean, less ability to fund the schools is what
Correct.
You mean. Go ahead.
Less ability to fund the schools. And so what the state now does is it expects every jurisdiction to pay what's called in the statute local fair share. It's a judgment about how much the people of that district can afford to spend. And then it tops it off with a slug of state money so that everybody ends up with roughly the same amount of money. Obviously, children who have greater needs, special education students, children who go to schools with a high concentration of poverty get a little bit more.
What are some of the keys, dare I call them best practices, in any urban school or school district anywhere in the state or nation?
So by far and away, the most important variable within a school, within the four brick walls of a school, are the effectiveness and quality of the teaching force. There's no question about that. Now, obviously, there are things outside the school that are highly relevant as well. But within a school, it's the quality of the teachers. And we do not have a system in this country that puts that value at the absolute top of the heap. For example, we cannot differentiate pay. We cannot pay more for a PhD chemist to come in and teach chemistry than for a teacher for whom there's a far greater supply of teachers. So that's a big fundamental problem. The second is leadership. Never seen a great school without a great leader.
Principal.
A principal, correct. I've certainly seen some schools that are struggling that have a great principal, but I've never seen a truly great school without a great leader. The third, and this is a sort of softer one, Steve, but one that I think is very important, is you absolutely have to operate on the basis of high expectations for kids.
Instead of saying, sorry for interrupting, Chris, you know what do you expect? They're kids in urban areas, they come from a tough community where crime is rampant. Drugs are there. There may or may not be two parents in the household. Come on, what do you expect? By the way, clearly I'm not saying that I think that, but some do. What do you expect? You expect what?
I'm so glad you said that. I know it's not something from your heart. It's something you're attributing to others. But that sentiment, I believe, is very, very prevalent in public education.
It's pervasive.
It is. It is. And unless you have a school community and a school culture that accurately perceives that children, regardless of their poverty level, for example, or their home circumstances, for example, can and do every day soar if we give them an opportunity, then that's not going to happen for those kids. If you don't expect that they will be great, they won't be great.
To the level of expectation?
Correct.
You believe that?
I absolutely do believe that. Now, look, we're not all born equal. I can tell you, for example, I don't have any musical ability whatsoever, and other people have great musical ability. Some people are born with profound intelligence, and some people with less so. So I'm not saying that everybody is born equal.
What should we be able? What should we, realistically, legitimately, Chris, expect for most students in urban schools across this nation?
Every child should go to school from pre-K or at least kindergarten through 12th grade, should graduate with a diploma, and that diploma should mean something. It should demonstrate that that child is ready for either college level work or for access to a profession that provides the kind of economic opportunity that everybody in this country deserves.
Chris, in the limited time we have left, you are leaving as the superintendent of the Newark Public Schools. In the middle of 2018, this program will be seen in 18. The state has controlled the Newark Public Schools for over 20 years. Local control is happening, meaning the city of Newark will be in control of its own destiny in the public schools. Reason for optimism?
Well, I have a lot of reason for optimism, in part because, and I know there are a lot of narratives out there, because over the course of the last 8 years, the gains in graduation rates, in math achievement, in reading achievement, and frankly, the systems that support that, the ability to hire, recruit, and retain great teachers, how we compensate teachers, just the data systems, the technology, has led to very significant advances, outsized advances compared to other cities in the country. We have a foundation upon which to build. We have a board that is committed.
Board of Education.
Board of Education that is going to run this billion-dollar-a-year enterprise. They are committed. They are trained. If we can assure that they keep their eye on the ball here, and the ball is very simply, this system does not exist for any other reason than to successfully educate children. It's not about contracts. It's not about jobs.
It's not about patronage.
It's not about patronage. It's not about scratching people's back for political favors. What school do I get to? What job does my cousin get? As long as they keep their eye on the ball, we will go to a really terrific place in this city.
Thank you, Chris Cerf. Well done.
Thank you. My pleasure.
The preceding program has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of Caucus New Jersey has been provided by Guarini Institute, United Airlines, University Hospital, Newark, New Jersey, PSE&G, the Turl Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, the Fidelco Group, and by NJM Insurance Group. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. Caucus New Jersey has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.